This episode of I Work for Him is brought to you by SaferNet, online at safernet.com.
You've tuned into I Work for Him, the voice of collaboration for the faith and work movement.
We are your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg, and our mission is to transform the workplace of every Christian into a mission field. What could that look like in your workplace? Well, let's find out right now.
How does a basketball playing young man from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, end up in Meridian, Idaho? It's a God story for sure. How does his storied college basketball career end up leading him into a business tree of coaching teens about sports and character, bringing value and purpose to their lives? Gotta be God. Ro Wiggins is a head coach, and he's a mentor to many. His secret talent is living out his faith and his work within the public school system and in his community. Ro Wiggins may have started out in the bayous of Louisiana, but Idaho is his home today. Ro Wiggins, welcome to I Work for Him.
Thank you for having me so much. I really appreciate being here.
All right, so Ro, we want to hear your story, and we're going to capture your story today, but we always start up with, how did you become a follower of Jesus?
Being raised in Louisiana is something extremely important to my culture down there, but more importantly, my mom, she was in the choir, never missed a Wednesday, never missed a Sunday. We were physically, naturally there all the time. And it was only until I went through my own trials and tribulations in my life to where I became an actual follower. So I was in the building, as they would say, but as far as being spirit led, that didn't happen until my teenage years. So that's a big testament to my mom and her always wanting us to be in the Word. So that's how I became a follower, through my mom putting it in front of us and then us doing the information and the work ourselves.
Single mom, right?
Yes, sir.
And would you have grandma in your life too?
Very much so. She was definitely the go-to babysitter.
So a praying grandma, nothing more no more powerful force on the universe than a praying grandma.
That is a fact, man. I'm super thankful for her as well.
I love that you clarified, because a lot of people may have grown up in the church, but never really established a relationship with Jesus. So you mentioned briefly that it happened in your teen years. So from then on, have you always been serious about your faith?
So I would say, just being full transparent, I've always been serious about it. I'm also understanding that all journeys and paths come with their hiccups and distractions and what have you. I feel like anything that I've ever went through always drew me back to the source. Just keeping the main thing. I've never truly tried to go through any situation in my life alone without going to God. And if I did try it for maybe a week or two, it was not going to work. I would have always had to have gone back to the source. So I would say I became a follower at a young age. My faith grew stronger and my belief in Christ grew stronger as I matured.
Well, and that's kind of part of your story, because God took you from, it was Baton Rouge, right? I had that right. I always love to say Baton Rouge.
It's Shreveport, but it's all the same.
It's all the same. Yeah, but it's not near as much fun to say Shreveport as it is to say Baton Rouge. Okay. All right. So, but God moved you from Louisiana to Idaho. What's that story? Tell us that story, because that's kind of fun.
Man, so it actually started with me going to school in Wyoming at first at a junior college at 21. I graduated high school at 17, but I stayed and worked at a call center. I'll never forget it, for 4 years, because my mom had recently divorced my stepdad. So it was her first time being a sole income earner, and she had to get back on her feet even at an older age. And I'm a mama's boy through and through. I always do what I can. So I gave up my basketball dreams to go into the call center and to just get a quick job. I'm a very communicative person, so that felt like something I was good to do. Fast forward 4 years to 2018. From 2014, she said, "Hey, we're back on our feet. You're good to move out or pursue or whatever." And I was like, well, I'm only 21. I'm still fit to go with basketball. Busted my butt off, and then I actually got the connection to college by going to a Wednesday night church group where we happened to play basketball as well. That connection got me a look to junior college called Central Wyoming College in Riverton, and the rest is kind of history with that. And Idaho just happened to be a neighboring place that kind of gave me city vibes and Wyoming vibes. So when I stumbled upon over here, it was already a booming place. It was already a lot going on. But I took the most random jobs ever, security guard, Walgreens worker. But I knew that I had a good knack for working with people, not really more so kids in general yet, but I knew just I was a people person. I knew the game of basketball, and I just knew how to quickly earn people's like safe space, if that means like, hey, this guy is good to be around me type of energy. So Idaho became the home.
That's awesome. So there's so much I would love to know in more detail, but we want to get to, what God has you doing today. But in the midst of all of that, college, social life, all of that, you met your wife there and you have a family, right?
Yeah. So just full transparency. Yes. As I said, in my earlier years, I had a lot of figuring out to do. Just living the fast life, so to speak, and not making the right decisions and, having to be held accountable for those decisions. So I have 6 children. This is something I love all my children. They're all well taken care of. But when I think about the journey as to how I got to this point where I am today, it's like, certain things just have to happen. And I will, first of all, say, my mom raised me the best that she could, to be a gentleman, to be respectful. But I will say, as outside of my spiritual father, not having a dad around to guide me, to mold me, to tell me the ins and outs of life and the decisions to make, I would say I had that chip on my shoulder. I just really would have appreciated that guidance. Mm-hmm. With that being said, even from moving from Louisiana to Wyoming to Idaho, I had already had 4 children at the time. So I have 2 daughters with my wife and 4 children previous of her. Meeting her, I truly believe, is a complete act of God. First, I had to get over the fact of, I'm not deserving of a person like this. And when I say person like this, just faith-driven, pure, kind. When I say baggage, I'm not calling my kids baggage, but I'm saying got her whole life ahead of her, no children, none of those things, and JC at the time, who was going to be my girlfriend, she didn't know these things about me. So once I started fully focusing on my program and serving these kids, that's how I came to I met who was her aunt at the time. I was training her kids. They got a gym at their house. And 3-4 weeks go by and she's just like, Ro, my kids love you. They love you. And I don't want to pry. I just don't see a ring on your finger. And I'm just curious if you're seeing anything. Because I got this niece and you two would be so perfect. I'm just like, okay, I'm way past the hookup phase and all of those things. But yeah, we can go grab lunch or something. We ended up going to get just some ice cream because it was COVID time, 2020. And God just has a funny way of doing things that he wants to do. Because I kid you not, for the first time in my life, and I'm talking about 20-something plus years, there was a 4-month span where I wasn't talking to a single female, not even as a friend, not flirting, not dating, fully focused on serving these kids. I run across this family, and then that's how I got connected with JC, and we started talking about faith and future and just all the things. And it was only up until like our 5th date, that's when I felt it in my heart. I was like, I can see myself spending the rest of my life with this woman. Now, just imagine the weight that I felt because she was on the pre-dating honeymoon high and I was as well, but she was not aware of what's about to come with me. Because when it comes to my children, as any person, I hold them very near and dear to my heart. If you're just going to be some like rotating door person, I won't even let you know they exist. I don't even you don't deserve that information. Well, I was like, you know what? I feel like this is the one. And if she is, she'll be more than okay with it. She will accept me as I am. And I just remember saying the longest run-on sentence ever. So I just feel like it's a perfect time for me to let you know that I got 4 kids I already had before I met you. It was a very crazy thing, just hooking up with people and this, that, and the other. They're well taken care of. I'm not on no child support, nothing like that. I got a great relationship with the moms and no baby mama drama, nothing like that. And she was just like, Bree, show me pictures. Oh my gosh. When she was like, oh my gosh, they're adorable. I was just like, oh, I got more. I got more. But that woman in that situation, because full transparency again, I've always been the person to withhold information that would like ruin my chances of showing people who I was when they met me. I like almost force people to meet me where I'm at versus I don't want to give you no ideas for you to paint this picture of something that I'm not, and don't give me a chance to show you who I am. So that ended up happening. I proposed. She said yes. We had 2 kids after that. And I will say, for anybody that's watching, any young kid that's watching, it's just a beautiful feeling to do it the right way. Now, obviously, my story is completely different, but it did feel phenomenal seeing my first daughter being born with my wife and my second daughter being born with my wife. I mean, it just felt so spirit-filled, like as far as on the inside of me. Very much so. I was happy to be a father to all of my sons because I have 4 boys and 2 daughters. But doing it the right way, man, it's nothing better. And that's what I'll teach my kids.
And that's just one of those tools. The Bible really tells you how to get that done, to do it the right way. And, there's so many tools in our lives that can make things easier and keep us from crisis. And one of those tools can be found through SaferNet. Their VPN, internet controls, and virus protection are an all-in-one app for ease of use and highest level of protection you can hope for all of your computer-based devices. And you can keep distractions at bay with 84 website filters too. Stay safe and productive at work and at home. We use it on all of our devices. SaferNet.com. That's SaferNet.com.
So, Ro, one of the things I love in your story is you keep alluding to like these kids that you're working with. And so we want to dig into that a little bit because God obviously has equipped you for where you're at right now. Through circumstances, you probably never saw them as stepping stones, but I can already hear that in your story as we're laying it out. But you went from being a basketball player to being a coach, and then you have now Grow with Ro. How did all of that happen and get started?
Starting off with my little brother, he wanted to play football, and I started training him because we couldn't afford football training like back in 2015, 16. But long story short, he ended up becoming a valedictorian, state champion. He's currently at UT Martin right now, civil engineering major. And, looking back on it, I used to always just wonder, was it a very good, just me being a good big brother role model, or do I have a gift of working with people? So fast forward to my college days in Wyoming. In Riverton, Wyoming, there's an Indian reservation called the Wind River Indian Reservation. It was actually my first time encountering Native Americans, period. And just being completely honest, what I was taught about the Native American community growing up in the inner city, Louisiana, Pilgrims, Indians, Thanksgiving, the whole nine, the dressed up, all the stuff. I moved there. I'm completely enlightened on another side, another story that turns out to be the actual truth. And it gravitated me to them. I see my little inner city kid self, single parent home, gang violence, drug related things going on in families. I seen that in these kids, and they all had basketballs in their hands. So I just use basketball as a bridge, which I'm very much good at teaching that game. But it's also mentorship, motivating these kids, speaking light into their lives. So I started on that Indian reservation, went to one in Montana. I mean, fast forward, now I'm not only working with Native Americans, but all races and ethnicities. And I've worked with probably 40 plus tribes in 32 states.
Wow.
So just 2017. So tens of thousands of kids, some of which I annually receive graduation invites to, when I even haven't seen them in freaking 4 and 5 years. And just to get this out there, there was a young lady, it had to be about 3 months ago. She messaged me and was just like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but I came to so-and-so camp, and I'm not going to lie, I was a little knucklehead and walked out of your camp. But I just wanted you to know, at the time, I appreciated your patience. I'm working a job now. I'm getting ready to go to cosmetology school. And I just want you to know you helped me in more ways than you can imagine. I couldn't see it at the time, but looking back on it, I just want to thank you. And I'm just like, that's going to be better than any player getting drafted to some NBA or WNBA, because it's just like the marinating effect. Like sometimes things got to sit with people for it to truly like resonate over time. And it's just like, those people were in my corner. So yeah, that's how GROW became a thing. And I'm just serving my purpose with these kids.
I love that. You know what? I just want to speak to our listeners right now, because Jim and I were just having this same discussion last night. And so I want our listeners to hear, because all of us have had people that have walked life with us, that have impacted us. And have we ever taken the time to do what that girl did and reach out and say thank you, and to really show how important that person's role was in your life and appreciating them? Doesn't mean they have to send you a fruit basket or, just a note.
Fruit cake at Christmas is a good idea.
Jim's up for any kind of food
That's right.
gift.
Fruit cake. P.O. Box 518, Marionville, Missouri, 65705.
You're terrible.
All right, sorry.
But I think that this is an area where we all fall short. We have had people speak into our lives that have challenged us. We may not have appreciated it, like that girl, but you said it marinated with her, and she saw that was a pivotal moment. So everybody, as we approach Thanksgiving and this time where we're thinking more about being thankful, let's do that. Let's make an act of reaching out to at least one person who made a difference in your life and spoke into you, and that you maybe have never taken the time to really show appreciation. It goes a long way, Ro, because, you could have had 3 months of frustration in your work, but you get one note like that and you're like, let's go. I got this.
You just got to keep reading it. You're right.
Yeah.
You have to keep reading.
Put it up on your mirror or whatever.
Laminate it so you can go back to it. I mean,
So,
and just
sorry,
to clarify,
I just think that's so important.
No, I think it was a great point, Martha. Ro, it's important to, you're not dealing with Christian kids. I mean, this is not in a church environment. You're bringing your faith wherever these kids are at, right?
I am. That is true. And I will say that one of my mentors has told me, I remember having Bible study with him, and he was just like, Ro, I'm not sure if you realize it, the impact you're having on these kids. Yeah, you're not throwing scriptures at them, but this is your ministry, correct? Like, that is your audience. It's you and 40, 50, sometimes 60 plus kids. That is your ministry, and the words you decide to say and the lessons you decide to pour into them is pivotal. And this is why I pray every time before I even start a camp, anytime before I even lace my shoes up, the same way you pray for us in the intro. Lord, Father God, please use my hands, my body, my tongue, my eyes to see, to hear these kids, to speak life into them. Use me in whatever way you will, whether it be through basketball or through the messages in between the drills. And some great moment always comes out of some camp.
How often do you get a chance? I mean, you're in your Grow with Ro program. We'll have your website plugged in the notes on the show. But how often do you actually get to feed the truth, Jesus truth into these kids? I mean, because you're having lots of interaction with them, you're doing drills, and you're seeing patterns in these kids. And I'm sure some of these kids are coming from broken homes where they're struggling. How often do you get a chance to be real with them and share who Jesus is in you?
So I will say intentionality is usually probably about 25% of the time based on the community. For example, I was just in Beach, North Dakota, and it was some kids I had basketball camp with there, and I was just passing through, headed to fly out of Bismarck, which there's like 2-hour difference, but I was just passing through, stopped in to see if they were having practice or something. They actually turned out to be going to Bible study. So it depends on like the place, because I literally spoke at the Bible study and we talked about the Word of God. Now, with that being said, these programs that bring me in, whether it be for diabetes prevention or drug awareness or those things, I usually cover the scope of what those grant funds are for. And if something is within me, though, I've never withheld it. Now, I will say this, because God is my witness. I don't say the words. I don't say the names from the Bibles. I don't say the scripture verses, but I do send the message. Mm-hmm. I do send the message. And and I will say at times it's kind of been a struggle for me, because I would never say that I've been fake ever, but it's just like, okay, I'm giving them that knowledge, but what if this is just like a treat, like a tease? Like, what if they crave more? What's that fine line between like, hey man, don't be bringing that Jesus stuff over here. Or, you know what I'm saying? It's just, but I'm also staying true to me. If I feel a message or I feel a word, I cater it to I adapt to who's in front of me. I get the message out. As far as honoring your parents, honoring authority figures, I do my best.
So, I mean, but you've got social media where your personal social media can espouse all that stuff. And so you can be real in your social media. So if they're following you, you can get all of them as friends. And
my personal, I do.
Yeah.
My personal, I do, from stories and posts and all. My personal, I do. And a lot of these kids do they look. I
Yeah.
mean, thousands a day. If I post it, they're looking. Now, some interact, or most times it's, I needed this. Dang, coach, never thought about it that way. Dang, I really needed to see this. Thank you so much.
Right.
Now, after they say that, I don't respond back and be like, and here's also a link, or I work for him, where you can find more information about, you know what I'm saying?
I'm trying to figure out why you wouldn't do that. Well, this interview just came to a completion. Thanks for listening to I Work for Him. Okay.
I guess no, I'm kidding.
But I love what you said though, because you're making, you're teasing an appetite, but in a healthy way, and you're giving them truth. And we really love at I Work for Him to feed truth into people. And a great way to do that is through vetting companies that we find out what they really truly stand for and how we can best utilize what God has called them to do. You can find a complete list of our sponsors at iworkforhim.com/sponsors. But one that I want to highlight today that we have vetted is Patriot Mobile, a cell phone company that takes truth seriously. Their values align with I Work for Him, and what can be better than trusting them with your communication connections? So go to patriotmobile.com/I Work for Him today to learn more and make the switch. It's really easy, and you won't be sorry.
All right, so Ro, as we finish up today, you're also coaching. I think I've read a news article. Like, is it a private school or is it a public school? But you just got hired as, what is it?
It's a public school. It's called Middleton High School in Middleton, Idaho, about 10 minutes away from where I live out here in Meridian. Marianne Blackwell is actually the head coach. I'm not going to lie. I consider myself like a co-head, but I'm labeled an assistant. But I'm thankful that she definitely pries my brain for all and any and every information. We're a really good left-hand duo, the best left-hand duo. We got a lot of kids there, a lot of girls that work hard. We're in our second year, and we're expecting to have a great one.
But what about game time basketball? I found this thing, your fifth grade girls basketball head coach for the 24-25 season. I found that on the internet. I mean, your name's all over the internet. You're like famous coach everywhere.
So that's actually a Nike program, a travel basketball club located here in the Valley, which is usually kind of on ice for me during the winter months, because I'm solely focused on school basketball. So that's more spring and summer. But yes, GTS Game Time Basketball is definitely a very up and coming, thriving girls basketball program. Got very dedicated trainers, coaches, and players over there as well. Just really good student athletes, people looking to learn.
I'm hearing you say something several times that I really see as part of what makes you so successful working with the kids. And that's that you say, I'm not going to lie. I'm transparent. I'm going to tell you this truth, whatever. Kids value that so much because they just want you to lay it out there. Actually, we all value it. I just don't think that we respect the kids enough to give them the truth all the time. And so I love seeing that in your personality. And that is probably why these kids one of the many reasons that they flock and they actually listen to what you have to say, because you're speaking out to them in a way that they need. But I'm curious, is it harder to coach the kids or to handle the parents?
Oh, man. So I would definitely say, I have to say it's harder to coach the kids, in which there's no difficulty there as far as comparing the two. I got to choose the kids. And here's why. The parents are going to be who the parents are. I definitely can't change a parent in a sense of, I'm with the kids hours on end of the day. I see them over and over. It's a personable space. I can put myself in numerous positions to gain their trust or lose their trust, speaking of the kids, versus the parents. They'll more than likely be stuck in their way of thinking and of parenting. For example, if some parent messages me, which it happens rarely, but it does happen, hey, my son said that, he got in the car crying, said that you set him out of the camp. I'm so vulnerable and open with these people. Actually, I didn't set him out the camp. He was deciding to make a decision that would only benefit him but hurt the team. I said, when you decide you want to come back and be a team player, you can rejoin us. I'm opening the line of communication. Would you like to come back? He chose the choice to not communicate with me. He chose to sit over there on the side. And I think it hits parents in a sense of your kid, if they shut down, if they do communicate, if they talk back, all these things. But I make sure that I follow it up with a positive, such as, but your son has also attended my camp 4 to 5 times in the past, and I've never had an issue with him. But in that same breath, this was the only time and first time I had to hold him accountable. So it's all. He will remember my patience during that. Now, whether he was too embarrassed or not to join back, he will know. Well, he didn't curse me out. He didn't yell. He said I can come back when I was ready. That's how you actually say. That's marinating a safe space. It didn't happen in that moment, but when I return, I bet he'll be the first one in the gym.
Yep. That's so good.
Yep.
You know what? Okay, I'm going to speak to listeners one more time because it's the parents that are listening right now, right? So we need to establish a good relationship with those that are leading our kids and give them the benefit of the doubt. Because why would you do this if you weren't in it for the good of the kids, right? Like this is not, it's hard work doing what you're doing and being so intentional. So I just, adults, we do need to give those other teachers, leaders, coach, the benefit of the doubt, be their support and their encouragement because you can speak truth into the kids that sometimes parents don't get that opportunity to do because they're not listening as well. So there you go. There's my encouragement to all the listeners today. I love your intentionality with every different child that you are touching right now because it sounds like there's a gamut of them and you have so many different focuses, but I'm grateful that God has you right where he has you.
All right. So as we close out today's interview, Ro, what's one thing that you've always wanted to say to a national audience who are all trying to figure out, how do I live out my faith and my work? What's one thing you'd love to say to them today?
God is real. His love is real. His power is real. It's no different than somebody pulling out some tool and not wanting to read the instructions, in this case being how to live your life, and thinking you can just go about it and figure it out as you go. The scripture is the directions and it will order the steps that you need to take. I will always unapologetically claim my faith in the public eye because there is no other person, no other being, no other entity that could put me where I'm at today based on where I was. And looking back on my life for all the times that I've had a chip on my shoulder for not having this person around or not having these resources to do that, he never left me, never. So I will just say, God is real. Pursue him, allow him to pursue you, and trust in him completely, truly. That's what I want to say. Find him, keep him, because that's one thing I know for sure. We can lose sight of him, get distracted, go our own way. He never takes his sights off of us. And you cannot say that about any physical person on this earth. I mean, omnipresent and always thinking of you and your best intentions. It's just, God is real. That's all I got to say. And I'm thankful for the life that he's given me and the platform he's given me.
Awesome.
Ro Wiggins from Meridian, Idaho. Oh, Iowa. Maybe Iowa. How about
You're renaming
how about
it.
Meridian?
Fruitcake.
There goes my fruitcake opportunity. Ro Wiggins from Meridian, Idaho. Thanks for being on I Work For Him today. Make sure you check out Ro online, Facebook, gROw Sports Training. Check him out. You'll not regret it. Ro, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Thank y'all for your time.
If this episode has been helpful to you, be sure to subscribe to stay informed and share it with a friend.
You've been listening to I Work For Him with your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. We're Christ followers. Our workplace, it's our mission field, but ultimately, I work for him.
This episode of I Work For Him is brought to you by SaferNet, online at safernet.com.
If it's easy to use, you'll use it. What if you had one place to monitor all the internet activity of everyone in your family? Attention, I Work For Him listeners. Safeguard your business and family with SaferNet VPN. We deliver top-notch cybersecurity with a user-friendly approach. Protect sensitive data with a virtual private network and shield loved ones from harmful content with 84 internet filters. Choose SaferNet VPN for peace of mind. Get secured now. Sign up with safernet.com. That's safernet.com.
Did you know that God has a calling on your life? It's true. He's called you to bring Jesus to the world. For some, that may look like a pulpit or a foreign mission field, but for most of us, it looks like a construction site, a cubicle, a hospital, or a classroom. Wherever it is that you work, live, volunteer, and invest, that is your mission field. To learn more about integrating your faith into your work and retirement, check out our books, I Work for Him, She Works for Him, and I Retire for Him, by going to iworkforhim.com/bookstore.
Thanks for listening to the I Work for Him podcast with your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. Please visit iworkforhim.com to learn more about connecting your faith and work, to join the I Work for Him Nation, or subscribe to our weekly blog. You can also follow us on social media at I Work for Him to stay up to date and meet our guests. If today's message spoke to you, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast platform. Your review will launch more workplace missionaries across America. That's at I Work for Him and online at iworkforhim.com. I work, the number 4, him.com.